And we are live. Another nice episode of the Ginge and Pedro show. Pedro, aka Panama Man, straight out from Panama City, Panama. And with my good friend Ginge over here. Say hi, Ginge.
Hello.
And
Hello, everybody.
yeah, today we have a very special guest. Like I'm honored to call him a friend. He's a mentor, and he's been an example of what you should be as an artist ever since I met him. Uh, like I have to say, like the when they told me, like Pedro, would you like to meet a Disney director? I slapped that person because it was in Panama, like in dude, like 2007, 2008. Like, would you like to meet a Disney director? I slapped my friend, like stop playing with my feelings. And then he said, no, there's a Disney director that happens to be Panamanian. Like he's a Sonian, which is basically like an American that was born in Panama, and he worked for Disney, and he told me like the pedigree, and then I met this gentleman, and dude, I was blown away by just the knowledge and how down to earth he was. And at this time, I had an animation school. He used to come to my school to give courses to the students and whatnot, and I did. It was a privilege and it was an honor to say that today on the Ginge and Pedro show we have Mr. George Scribner.
Boom.
Hey, how
Hello,
you guys doing?
George. Good,
Good
sir.
to
How are
see you
you?
both. Thanks for the
Absolutely.
invite.
Yeah.
Thanks for the chance to come on the show, man. Thanks very much.
Very cool. Yeah. So, Pedro, take it away. Go ahead.
Okay, so George, I mean, I already know who you are, and most of the people that are gonna catch the show might know who you are. But could you please give us a brief, like I don't know, resume
Yeah,
of what you've done and where you've been?
I'd be happy to.
Yeah.
Uh, so my name is George. I was born and raised in Panama City, Panama. My father moved here after World War II. Really liked it and stayed. It's like, oh, he likes Panama City so much. I grew up here, went to school in the States, majored in film from Emerson College in Boston. Came back to Panama to work for a couple of years and read that Disney was looking for animators. The original animators that had been with Walt Disney were retiring. They were looking for new animators. So I sent a portfolio from Panama and got a nice letter back about a month later, like, hey, nice try, but not quite exactly what we're looking for. Good luck. And I decided, you know what? I'm ready for this. It's a career I'd love to pursue. I had acted, I had done theater, I could draw. And animation seemed like a blend of all three. Like, wow, you're acting on paper. Now you act digitally, but it's the same process. So I moved to LA and worked in various studios, all the while submitting portfolios to Disney. So I worked at Chuck Jones, Hanna-Barbera, worked on a movie called Heavy Metal. It was a million years ago, but and finally got into Disney.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it's an awesome film. I did the last sequence, animated the last sequence of Heavy Metal. Anyway, it was awesome. Um, Finally got into Disney as an animator. A couple years later, had the chance to direct a animated feature for them called Oliver and Company with music by Ruben Blades and had Billy Joel in it. It was very cool. Anyway, it's very cool. I still work for the company as a consultant now for the parks. There's a group called Walt Disney Imagineering, which designs and builds the parks. So I spent about 10 years with them full time, and now I consult for them. So I direct animation on the side. I'm working on a project in Vancouver now, and I paint and do fine art and teach painting. And I'm now in Panama City, Panama, for the opening of a show, 50 of my paintings here in Panama for an opening at a Museum of the Canal, Museo del Canal. And anyway, that's my life story in about a minute. So,
Hey,
That
well
was
done.
very brief. It could be told in a very longer form, but dude, that was awesome, George. But
if
yeah, like uh,
I'm, I'm
talking
happy to give you
about
more information if you'd like. I could bore you like
hey,
crazy.
that that's what we're here for. Yeah, no, like no, we'll never be boring, George. But yeah, I like the fact that you were talking about you have to submit to Disney several times because that's my experience also in animation. Like they will always have a reason to say no, but you have to stay there until they say yes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, shut up, dogs. Thank you. I'm talking. Uh, but yeah, like that perseverance, like right now everybody's going indie, and which is really really good. People are trying to do their things of their own, but that spirit of perseverance should still be used. Like, do you remember how many times you submitted to Disney? Like exactly, or is
Yeah,
that like a blur
yeah,
now?
4 times, and each time they were very good about it. I'd have a meeting
Hmm.
on the lot in LA. They're in Burbank, and he would show me drawings of, look, what you're doing is you're drawing the human figure too stiff. We're looking for the figure in motion. We're looking for
Yes.
action. When you look at the figure, um, it's a verb. Something is happening. It's not just a piece of
Hmm.
anatomy. There's an excitement. You can tell, oh, this character is doing something. And I worked on it. And I started taking life drawing classes at night
Hmm.
in LA because
Hmm.
if you can draw the human figure, you can draw anything because it's probably one of
Yes.
the most hard. It's the hardest thing to draw, really. It's so subtle.
Hmm.
It's so complicated. But once you got it, and they weren't looking for anatomical drawings. They were looking for very simple. Wait, I can draw something here really quick. Wait,
Oh, do it. Oh, you know some George drawing.
like they were looking for something. Can everybody see this? Like just
I mean,
like a
Yes.
figure in motion. Just I want that. I want that.
Yep.
Sorry.
All right, there you go.
Just
There you
the figure moving, the figure like
go.
a
Hmm.
basketball player reaching up to dunk a ball,
Yeah.
because that's what animation is. It's bringing life to the human figure, or in the cases we do a lot, inanimate characters and stuff. And man,
Yeah.
I learned a lot, and I finally got in 1983 as a character animator on the movie The Black Cauldron, which
All
was no
right.
longer in the production. And
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, it took a while. My attitude about applying and reapplying and reapplying is, you know, the world belongs to the people who just don't give up. I mean, it sounds so trite, but it's true. You're going to get knocked down. Stuff's going to happen to you that you don't expect.
mhm.
You just got to get back up. The world belongs to people who just are kind of stubborn. They just
Exactly.
keep at it.
Yeah. Entropy is death. That's the thing. You gotta keep on moving. And dude, like the word no shouldn't be as final as people take it. And dude, like I don't know, like that's always been inspiring to me. Like I've always referenced you whenever I'm speaking with somebody when they're doing the whole flash, like who do you know? I was like, I know George Scribner, and dude, like animators are not famous, which to me it's a travesty. Like we have like awesome artists that are like I don't know committed to obscurity because in animation it's all like who did the voice, you know. Which I'm not.
Yes.
Maybe I'm sounding a little bit bitter, but I'm not. It's just that to me, it's a funny phenomenon. Like yeah, like the voice was Val Kilmer or whomever, but who gave life to the form, to the character, and that
Yeah,
really influenced the way we draw. You know what I
I
mean?
would say that. I would say yeah, that's true. There's 5 to 10 animators I can think of, or my
Hmm.
generation. And there's some animation now coming out of the studios, which is phenomenal. It's all been done digitally,
Yes.
either in like
Hmm.
Maya or whatever. But the,
Hmm.
I mean, it's amazing what a good animator can do to a character. And you're right. The community knows who these animators are. I can list people in my own generation, and I'm sure you know people in your own generation. But there's
Yeah.
people who are animating for Pixar and Disney and
Yeah.
DreamWorks that I mean, I just saw actually one of the best movies I've seen in the last 5 years is probably Zootopia.
Yeah.
Es una
Zootopia was
maravilla.
amazing. Yeah.
It was amazing because it dealt with so many other things besides the animation. It was class, and
Hmm.
it was really, I thought it was beautifully done. But my point is, the tools that are available now to an animator, the digital tools are so much more refined than when I was
Yeah.
animating. Anyway, that's a whole other topic. But yeah, I would say by
Yeah.
and large, the right people know who the right animators are. That's
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Yeah. That's the
George,
thing.
somebody in our
yeah,
chat here made a interesting comment. I'd just like to sort of maybe pick your brain about a little bit. Dan says Oliver and Company was Disney's first computer-assisted feature. Dot dot dot. Do you remember any of that? Is that the case? What was that like?
yeah. It's partially true. we were the first ones to do an entire sequence with it. At the very end of the movie, there's a chase on the subway. The vehicle of the villain Sykes was like an old Ford LTD that we kind of like rejigged to make it even just look crazy evil. And the entire subway, the bridge, what was it? I forget which bridge it was. Which one of the bridges in Manhattan? Anyway, yeah, but just small note. We did a little bit of computer generation in The Great Mountain Detective. The Tower of London was generated. And in other words, it was partial, like little pieces prior to all of it. And then, I don't know, and then just every feature, we just used more and more of it because it was just such a phenomenal tool for us.
Yeah. I remember because to me, I don't know. This is very personal, like from my experience. Like to me, like the beginning of digital animation was basically taking a hint from rotoscoping. Because I remember reading in books like the first experiment, for example, in 101 Dalmatians, that they build a maquette of Cruella's car,
That's
and they
correct. Right.
start taking pictures of the cars moving, and they just traced over it. So in the beginning, maybe John Lasseter's test with the kid in the like I don't know, like furry pajamas being chased by a dog. Like it's a sequence that was like run over like the Disney studio. So it's not really in a movie. When he was like, "Hey, this is what we can do with CGI animation," and it's just like this kid going like over the bed, under the bed, getting chased down
Yeah,
like
that's
a
right.
flight of stairs.
Where the wild things are.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's right. He did a proof of
And
concept.
but at that time, it was like, how can we mix traditional animation with CGI? Like, I don't know. Like, my wishful thinking is like, what would have happened if we kept down that route instead of replacing completely like animation? Because animation suffered for a long while because people were concentrated more into what software are you using, and the principles of animations are lost. I think we're past that because if you see like Zootopia, like Arcane, for example, on Netflix, dude, awesomely animated. Like uh, it's a series, and people are focusing more on the textures, like how like the light catches the skin and how look it good. How look it good, how good it looks. But animation wise, dude, all the principles are there. Like I love the Arcane just because of that. Like you see the love and respect for the principles of animation there, as in Zootopia, and as in many films that are coming out that are just like, dude, people take them for granted. Because yeah, like I don't know, like I think animation is in a very good place right now, but in a very bad place because of how people consume now. So things are lost to the ether. Because there's like, okay, there's a series of in Netflix. There's like 6 episodes, and whoever watch it, and then it's gone. So and there's always something. I guess I'm rambling. Sorry.
No. I get your point. No matter how you, part of what I would say to that, it's just, I don't know, just my thoughts on it is, it really depends on the style of the treatment. What's the approach you're going to take? Family Guy, it's
Yeah.
super crude, but it matches.
Yeah.
In like Ginger writer, it matches the style of the writing. Look, it's not meant to be fully animated, fully developed. It's an entirely different look. I can't name, just I watched some of the animation that's now available. It works great. It's very charming, but it's not traditional.
Yeah.
What I would say character animation, Disney character animation, which is
Yeah.
based on. You're right. Some very simple principles of animation: follow through, weight, twinning,
Yeah.
the weight, the motion, speed. There's like 8 or 9 sort of basic principles of animation. But man,
Yeah. Like weight distribution, the
make or
overlap in
break.
action. Yeah.
Yeah, overlapping
Yeah.
action, follow through. A character has different kinds of weights to them and stuff. But when it doesn't call for that, man, that's great, because it's
Yeah.
just not the right look. It's not the right look for the approach, for the IP, and that's fine. You know what?
Gotcha.
I mean, all the manga stuff, it's just a completely different look. Great.
hmm
You know what works
Yeah.
thematically with the approach.
Yeah. The thing with manga is that they're very clever on where to put the money. Because you see, like they take a lot of shortcuts. Because people think, oh, manga is amazing. Like, yeah, manga is amazing, but they know how to move the budget to put all the money in the action scenes. So when it comes to the acting, they've come with this like series of tropes that would allow to convey,
True. That's
like
true.
emotion, and that saves them a truckload of money. So it's very clever. But I mean, when people ask me like, dude, what do you think about manga? Like I say that, and some some weebs. You know what a weeb is,
No.
George?
No, what?
A weeb is like an extreme manga fan will get mad at me because I don't say like it's the greatest. And it's like, dude, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying like, dude, like we're not gonna replicate the like 30s, 40s, and 50s era of Warner Brothers, where when people had all the time in the world to make a 7 minute short. Like that's not coming back. And that, I mean, to me, it hasn't been surpassed yet. Like the silhouettes, the acting, the compositing, even though with the limitations of technology. Personally, I think it's better animated, but that's personal. You know what I'm?
So let me hop in here real quick because it's
Mhm.
actually a good segue into sort of talking about what's needed for the art. My buddy Jake here, he's got a something for you, George. George, there's a uniqueness to the background mats present in a movie, and feels a bit. I think he's referring to Oliver and Company, the opening of Oliver and Company, and feels a
Right,
bit
right.
impressionistic. Do you recall what led to the decision and how it was made and executed? And I actually agree because I rewatched the movie earlier this week, and the opening of Oliver and Company is just beautiful. Like the art, the
Mm.
paintings, and everything. I'd like to know as well. Like, was that you or is that somebody of your team? Do you remember who did those paintings at the opening of the movie?
That came about almost by chance, which a lot of stuff does because you plan one way and you start to get artwork. That was being designed by a illustrator who came out of Art Center in Pasadena called Guy Deal. He was really good in the '60s. I mean, we're really dating
Mm.
ourselves here with myself, but and he did those as concept pieces first because we really weren't sure how we
Mm.
wanted to treat the opening. We knew we were at bird's eye level, camera dropping or very subtly dropping. And the whole idea was that we started as high as we could and got down to ground level to find the box of abandoned kittens. So that this was a transition from the beauty of New York down to the grittiness of New York. So
Mm.
the idea was we loved the concept art so much, we decided let's just go with that rather than in the style of the rest of the movie, which was line work over Xerox line work over backgrounds. This is so
Hmm.
gorgeous. These are just the stuff that happens in the process of making a film. That you
Mm.
plan one thing, somebody comes up with an idea, you're like, I never would have thought of that. That's awesome. That has such a better feel to it.
Yeah.
There's such affection for the city because,
Mm-hmm.
like he pointed out, like Jake pointed out, there's such a beauty in the treatment of it. And we just decided, what a nice transition. Start there with that look and end up with the grittiness
Hmm.
of the line work on the street. It's a great question.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned something that's
Yes.
very, very important because that denotes like not the limits, but how technology works in the service of art. The Xerox line work over paint replace like the inking because before you have like cell shading and inking department, and then when the Xerox copying machine came about, that was replaced. Can you tell us a little bit more about that process, how that worked?
That was before, sorry about that. That was before my time. It went from inking, which was very labor intensive. It was just
Hmm.
very labor intensive, inking line to Xerox line. And I think it was a stylistic choice that, wow, this gives us a certain edge. There's a movement to the Xerox line, very, very subtle, because it's not
Hmm.
perfect. It's an imperfect line, and it has a vibrancy, very, very, very subtle. Then and it gives it. We definitely went that way with Oliver and Company because we were on the streets of New York, so we wanted that kind of edge to it. And that's been it just really talks about the long development of all these techniques and technologies that have come about that as a director they're like a menu, like a buffet. I don't know how to describe that you can choose from. Wow, this will work great for this sequence, this works great for this. I love what has happened digitally. There's some animators who I worked with who they said, I didn't get into this to work with an interface, work on a monitor, working on, nodes and stuff. No, but that's not. But I'm like, wow, it just gives you that much more power to tell your story.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, long-winded answer to Xerox line, but hey, man, Walt Disney
That's
was a
perfect.
huge technology freak. He was like,
Yeah.
what's next? He was always out there like, what's next? What's
Yeah,
what?
that was a perfect answer, George. And FYI, that struggle still like it's valid because we still get people in the indie scene that says like, yeah, I rather work like analogically, like pencil to paper, rather than
Yeah,
working on digitally. But I mean, the reason it's valid is the things like I can sell the artwork, like I can sell the pages for a lot more money aside from the comic book. But still, like the possibilities, the range, like how fast you can be when you work digitally, like can help people put out more books, for example. So yeah, they're just like that. The fight's still there, you know. So don't worry. Like I'm partial to digital myself because yeah, it allows me to work faster. Like dude, I finished like a 72-page book in like around 6 months, and it's just because I'm working digitally. So yeah, people just like
well,
yeah, but if
I
you
mean,
want to sell the
I
pages,
look at it as what a convenience. Like
hmm
I have an iPad. I have a 12.9 iPad. I have Procreate on it. I animate in Procreate. I animate in Rough Animator. I
hmm
have uh, what am I using? Not I don't have Photoshop on it. I'm using. I'm sorry. I'm drawing a blank here. But bueno,
it's all
the
right.
tools. I mean, I use this iPad for everything. I generate
Mm-hmm.
animation, generate concept artwork. I do paintings on it before I do final paintings on canvas, so I can rough
Mm-hmm.
stuff out. Man, it's amazing what's available now.
Yes, we want to get to your painting. I have your website pulled up, but I'd like to talk a little bit more about animation. It's
Sure,
really not every day we get somebody of your level, you know. So
I'm
you
happy
had
to.
mentioned you'd mentioned you'd worked for Hanna-Barbera and I forget Chuck Todd, I believe it was. You said
Chuck Jones, who's a guy
Chuck
named
Chuck
Chuck
Jones,
Jones.
Jones.
right?
Chuck. Do
That's
you know what Chuck Jones is, Ginge?
yes, that's the Bugs
Jesus.
Bunny
Yeah, Bugs
team.
Bunny.
Yeah, I said Chuck Todd. I think that's a political commentator, but
Yeah,
it
no, you're
just
right. It is a
Yeah.
my bad.
Who
No,
Yeah. You
but
got.
who
I mean,
knew
you
he
got Alex
animated? He was
Toth,
amazing.
but Chuck Jones is just. Whew, that's
could you
Bugs
talk
Bunny,
about
man.
working there though? Like how you got into the studio there and what was it like? Were you a really young animator at the time and just sort
You
of
know what
what was it
happened
like
was when I
there?
moved to LA and I didn't get into Disney, I just had to find work. So I started working at other studios little by little. And I'm a pretty strong draftsman, and that was always in my favor. I could draw really well, and I just needed to learn the process of animation. So I worked at Ralph Bakshi. He was doing Lord of the Rings, and it becomes a
Hmm.
system of sort of connections. Someone went
Hmm.
from there and started working with Chuck Jones. Call me, hey, we have an opening. You want to come over here and do in betweens and breakdowns and stuff? I go, yeah, this would be awesome. So I worked for Chuck, like big friend of mine. Yeah, man. Hey, man. We were water skiing last weekend.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, as if. Anyway, so I worked for him for about 9 months, and then I went to him. So my larger point was, man, I learned so much more by not just getting into Disney, but by
Hmm.
working at all these other
hmm
places. What it did was it made me, I don't know how else to put this, it made me very professional. It made me really
hmm
understand that the work ethic and the output was as important as the level of work. You had to do
Hmm.
both,
Yeah.
to succeed. It wasn't like you could be a great animator and just turn in a couple feet a week. At that time, it was measured in feet. Now it's in seconds, but you can't just, you're part of a
Yeah.
team, a business as well. And I learned from all these different studios how to how to prioritize my time and how to
Hmm.
be more professional about it. That I had a
hmm
debt to whoever I was working for. Like, yeah, I'm not only working for you, but I'm working for you for a salary. You're running a business. I've got to do great work, but I've got to be timely, got to work well with others. And that's super important. You're part of a team.
Yeah.
You're not in it for on your own. I'm talking about a working studio. I'm not talking about working independently. You have a lot more freedom.
Yeah.
This is working. Shit, sorry. Something fell. You're working for a
Hey, don't
studio.
worry.
So, you've got to be like, you've got to realize, man, it's just people are depending on you, and it's important.
Okay. So
Yeah, that's a. Go ahead, Jens. Go ahead.
I was going to say, we got a couple more questions for George here. Jake asks again, George, what is a good practical advice you'd leave to others to draw backgrounds and/or gestures?
Jake, are you asking how to get into backgrounds and animation?
I think he's asking. I think he's just asking for like good, maybe fundamentals for drawing gestures and backgrounds. Jake's from. I always get this wrong. He's from either from Norway or Sweden, and sometimes he's going to kill me that I'm sitting here talking shit about his English. But
no.
Sorry,
Jake.
buddy.
My answer first. There's sort of two parts to it, because one is gestures is animation, backgrounds are the set, or the scenes of the set. The first one, animation, gestures. Learn to draw the human body as well as you can. Take life drawing. Go out and draw from a model. Quick poses are super important. To get the gesture down, to get the flow of the figure as quickly, like 2-minute poses. Take as much life drawing as you can. That's my first piece of advice. There's a lot of animation tutorials online, and there's also I know of a couple people who offer animation like workshops. That's one option. The other part of your question, backgrounds, is you've got to be good at the digital skills now. I find it used to be you could specialize. I just do Maya. I just do After Effects. I just do Photoshop. Now you've got to be pretty much comfortable with all the tools. And the reason I bring that up is most of the backgrounds that I've seen are pretty much all done in Photoshop, but you might be handing that PSD file off to someone else who's going to do some After Effects work on it. So you need to be comfortable with the principal digital tools, which I would say is After Effects and Photoshop, 3D Max, my whatever package, whatever 3D package. You're just going to be that much more valuable to be able to walk into a studio and go, hey, This is the range of work I can do. I would love to do this. Show some passion for something. Don't just, hey, here's a bunch of stuff for you to choose from. Tell me what you want. Then let me choose, or I can help you choose for you. But learn as much as you can of the digital packages and be comfortable with them. I hope that helps, Jake.
And we have just a quick follow-up question here, which kind of maybe goes with what you're saying here. Jake says, additionally, what books do you personally recommend for others to trace down and study? Can be anything. So do you have any, like, I know Pedro's got, I forget the name of it, but like a big animation Bible. He's got a couple of these. There's a Tarzan book.
The Illusion of Life. The Illusion of Life. The Tarzan book is a big inspiration, but go ahead, George. The question is for
Jake,
you.
No, Pedro, you're absolutely right. If you can get a copy of that, The Illusion of Life by Frank Thomas and Ollie Jonathan, it was the first real primer on animation. It was two of the 9 old men who were leaving when the young at the time, were coming into the studio, and they wrote this book. There's books on anatomy. I can't think of anything. There's what's his name? Bern Hogarth.
Bern Hogarth, yeah.
Bern Hogarth. The figure in action. I would just look for books that have the figure in action, not just anatomy books about this bone and the femur links up with the tibia and that stuff. It's learning to draw the figure dynamically, and there's a lot of them. I would just
I could recommend, Jake, the Glenn Villepeu live drawing manual. That has a whole chapter on gesture drawing and just like the flow of action and line of action. Because Glenn Villepeu used to train Disney animators for a while, so he developed his.
Yeah, he was a really nice guy, and I actually took a class with him. Really a great teacher.
So we have another.
I studied with one of his students, so that's why I had like the whole Bill Pooh upbringing. Like his book can be a little bit cryptic at times, and that's why it's not that famous. But if you follow the manual, because he'll go from like gesture to balance to contrapposto, and then he starts with anatomy. If you follow that program, you have like a clear grasp, or at least a good starting point to get like what George's talking about the gesture and how to capture the pose in 10 seconds, how to capture the pose in 30 seconds, how to do like a 2 minute study. And then you'll see a difference in your drawing. Like your drawings are gonna look with weight and with intention. And then comes the acting. Just that's something like I talk
Got
about.
an interesting comment here that maybe George can
Mm.
sort of touch on. Dan says, I remember seeing a special about Disney animators, and they were being trained to draw like it was writing, fast and loose. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, they would. The studio was very cool. While you were working there, we had um, one of the older animators bring in models, and you were doing quick poses, and his whole point was just get the essence of that pose down. It's not about all the detail and all the anatomy. It's about making a figure that looks super loose and again is saying something. That figure's in motion. That figure's doing something. So that you could pick up a piece of paper and hand it to somebody and go, oh, this person is leaning over to pick up something on the ground. This person is raking.
Mhm.
This person is
Yeah.
skiing. It was real obvious that something was happening.
Yeah.
It
Okay.
wasn't like, just stiff anatomical drawing. Let's see if I can draw.
So before we get into your painting side and your fine arts side, because that's something your work is absolutely stunning. I was looking at your website
No,
earlier. I
thanks.
want to show. I'd like to show it off here, but one thing I want to ask you about as a writer for myself in the indie scene, you're usually kind of playing a larger role than just a writer. You have to
Right.
build the art team, you have to do the sales and marketing, you have to put together an Indiegogo campaign, you have to do all these things. I've heard it sort of compared to maybe what a director might do in a sense, and I was just wondering. One of the conversations you hear people talk about a lot in the indie scene is how to communicate best with your artists. And I was wondering, from your experience as an artist yourself, but also as a director who's done a feature film, what are some tips that you
Okay.
might have for somebody that's the best way to negotiate and talk and work with an artist? What are your thoughts on that?
You're both. Did you hear that, George?
Was I cutting out?
No,
Yeah, a
he
little
was
bit.
on.
I'm on my end.
Heard
On
it.
my end.
No,
Okay.
but I love the
Okay, cool.
birds. No, the birds Pedro are fantastic. They're like, what
Thank
do they
you.
all have?
Thank you.
They all have Shure mics on, and wow, get canolo. Wow,
Yeah. Sorry about
it's
that,
very
man.
cool. No. It adds a certain charm to.
Okay. Yeah, people love the tropics. Like they say, like, oh, Pedro is here. In comes the birds, the aviary. So
I
yeah,
It's
love
it's
it.
usually
kind
the
of a trademark of the
fishmonger.
show.
It's
Yeah, and the
awesome.
fishmonger. Yeah.
Oh, it just gives it's awesome. Sorry, I didn't want to get off on
Yeah.
the. What you need to, if you want to direct, first of all, you need to respect other people and you need to like people. I know
Mhm.
that sounds very weird, but I've worked with people who didn't treat me with respect when I was animating.
Mm.
They took you for granted. You, as a director, you're wearing a lot of hats. You're directing people, but you also need to be respectful of them. You need to they're bringing something to you that there's a reason that you hired that animator or that story person or that concept person. That they're better than you. You want to find people who are better than you at certain skills because they're only going to make your own project look better. And be humble enough to know, I want to be maybe the dumbest person in the room. It was one of the reasons I wanted to work at Disney was I knew there were going to be people who were way better than me, and I was only going to get better. And it's true. And I still take classes. I still take painting classes for people who are better than me because I'm just going to get better. It's not that just never goes away. So being a director, it's a larger theme of just treat people decently, treat people with respeto and some like affection, and you'll be repaid 1,000 times over. It's just be decent, and don't, and also be cognizant of what the skills are. Reach out to people who are, like I'm saying, who are better than you for things that you can't do, or you might think you're great at, but be honest with yourself too. Don't BS yourself.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Very
Absolutely.
sound.
Yeah. We've got a couple comments here. I just want to throw out. Dan says Frank Thomas, September 5th, 1912 to September 8th, 2004. One of Disney's lead animators from a group known as the Nine Old Men. Did you ever meet any of these guys, George?
Yes, we actually showed a rough cut of Oliver and Company to Frank Thomas,
Wow.
Ollie Johnson, Milt Call.
Whew.
Who else came in? Eric. I forgot his last name. He was really good. I actually mentored under him. There were 5 or 6 of the Nine Old Men who came in to see a very rough version of the film and gave us their
Jesus.
notes.
What an honor, man.
And they had great notes. They were very helpful. And yeah, it was an honor, man. It was great. And he's the same book that Pedro was talking about. Frank and Ollie wrote, Illusion of Life, which it's got to be out there somewhere. I have a hardbound copy in my studio in LA. It's an awesome book.
Yeah, that's a must-have.
Jake says he's been looking high and low for Vilpoo books, but he has to settle with the internet stuff of his.
Yeah, actually, Vilpoo has a website, Jake, and you can get in there. You can get the PDFs of the book, and you can get his video lectures, which are a treasure trove in themselves. It's like he goes like drawing the head, drawing the gesture, like he goes all over, but in video. So I think that's better. I mean, if you can find the book, because you can find the book for like hundreds of dollars on eBay sometimes, but it's a very like big investment. So just go to the website, join. You'll have access to the videos, and you have the PDFs. And if you need the book, like you can print it out. Be a pirate,
There you go.
Okay, yeah, so I mean, it's not available. It's not really like you're taking money out of his pocket.
No, not if he's posting a PDF online. Yeah, that's
right. Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
George, do you have a Substack or anything? There's a sort of subscription. I don't know if that would be something for you to, because when we
explore.
I'd like to pull up your website here. I know you've got a really beautiful website.
I don't. I have an Instagram and website. I'm kind of dated. I really don't know the tools that are available. I have people who give me, like suggestions and stuff.
Oh.
Because I've been transitioning. I spent 30 years in animation and as an animation director, and I've been transitioning more to
George, we need to talk, man. We need to talk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We need to talk. Because the thing's like, if you crowdfund a book like this, it would sell fairly easy, man. Like it's awesome. Like your pedigree, like people would like to know your process and how to do it. So it's another way. Like you should explore Substack, crowdfunding. Right. This whole new there's a whole new world. And the thing is, like, there's no middleman anymore. It's you and the customer.
Yeah, right.
And dude, people should have access to this, man, because this is just like masterful. Look at this, guys.
Yeah, like, the use of colors. Wow, yeah, delicious.
Yeah,
very nice. So
I mean,
George, I'm super lucky that Disney brought in painters for the workers. So I started taking painting classes while I was at work. So I paint at night, at lunchtimes with, like I said, better painters than me, way better. And I just started learning from painters that the studio brought in. It was an awesome opportunity. I just took advantage of it. It was like,
yeah.
So is that the first time that you? Sorry, I was going to ask. Is that the first time that you painted, like traditionally, or did you grow up painting?
No, I grew up painting. No, I grew up. You know, my grandmother painted. She's from Barbados, and when we were kids, we'd go visit, and she painted. My mother painted. There was always paints around our house, so I started traditionally, and just started with acrylics, and then moved to oils, and I fool around with it. And just about 20 years ago, no more than that, 25 years ago, I started doing it seriously again at Disney when they brought in these teachers. And now I use the digital tools. Before I do these paintings, I'll work in Procreate or Sketchbook and rough the painting out, make all the decisions, composition, the value decisions, color, and saves me like getting in the middle of a painting and screwing it up. So I'll do small studies before. This
Yes.
is for
I feel like looking at the piece, you can definitely see. I mean, the coloring is really. I mean, one, it's very feels in motion. It's very fluid, but the coloring is, to me, really some of the most stunning stuff about it.
Like I said, I had great teachers. I had really
Yeah.
good teachers on the use of color. Like if you want a color to pop, put a desaturated color next to it. It's just small rules of thumb. It's like,
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like I had the privilege of watching George paint live, and it goes like, I know this is like from years of experience, but the decisions he makes are fast, and he keeps it loose, and then you just see like the picture just basically building itself before your eyes. It's a very beautiful process to watch, man, and that's something that I saw, and it's like, that's something I'll never be able to do. Like, who knows? Like, it's been years since those days. Like, we're talking 2010, right? 2011, when you hopped by my school.
That's right.
And you gave
I came by and we did a workshop at your school. That's right.
You gave a couple of lectures on painting, dude. The kids still, the kids. I'm still in contact with all my students. They're still grateful for that. It's like, we met George Scribner. He's an awesome guy. Like, wow, how he painted, So that's the thing. Like, you mark some people, and I mean, I think more people should see what you're doing, George. It's just, dude, this is amazing work, and more so the painting themselves, which are gorgeous. The process on how you make this type of art will blow people's minds. Like, you generate more artists if you show people how to do this. As I said, like, yeah, we're meeting. If you're in Panama, we need to meet, man. I need to talk to you.
You know
man.
what? Yeah, I even thought of maybe coming down here and doing like some kind of master painting class. Spend some time here and just. There's a school here. Maybe you know it, Pedro, called Ganexa.
Yeah, I know Ganexa. Yeah.
I'm talking to them tomorrow, and I'll be showing them some of this work as well. So it may be something where I do something with them as well. But
Ganexa's a good place.
I want to make a point about these paintings, and it's the point I made before. I'm only painting at this level because I paint all the time. It's just practice. It's just
exactly. But that's the thing. Like, you can do this thing in Ganexa.
Piece of art. Go ahead, Bill.
Like, you can do this thing in Ganexa, but maybe like streaming the lecture, allow more people to have access to it. As I said, like, we need to talk, because there's this whole community has built up around, like indie comic books and art. And there's people who are hungry for this kind of knowledge. So, like, doing it in Ganexa would be fine. Like, you get the people who are there, but there's a way to get more people involved. And that would be something good that we'll get for you, for Ganexa, or for the people like who will come into the streams, So that's something like, we'll be talking later, man, because this is an awesome opportunity. Like, I've been willing to invite you for a while to the show, but I mean, you said like an update of your paintings. Like, I have to talk to George. So like, I'm racing over here. Sorry if I'm rambling, but it's just like I have a lot of things to say to you. So sorry. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to make the point that this is all about practicing. You learn from every painting. It's any piece of art. Whether you're drawing, you're doing comic books. The people who are good are the people who just keep at it.
Oh, I broke the chair.
Good.
Pedro is known as the El Gigante de Panama or something like that. No.
El Gigante de Panama. Sí.
Yeah.
So I did want to kind of ask you a couple questions, just sort of about your process for picking something to paint. Have you pretty much painted all around Panama at this point, or is there just something can catch your eye? What do you have specific landmarks? What's your sort of thought process in picking a painting?
I like the variety of subjects that are available. It's not just Panama, but I tend to focus on the human figure because I can draw it pretty well. Again, all that animation background made me really comfortable drawing the figure. I try to put as many human figures as possible into my work. It gives the work scale. It gives the work a lot more interest. And I like focusing in on sort of everyday scenes of Panama. I like doing the big, broad ones, but like this, it's a pretty common sight in Panama. These guys going out in the morning, they're fishing, or coming back.
Yeah.
I'm trying to capture a moment. And these are memories that I had growing up as a kid here in Panama. So I try to put that emotion, how I felt. I mean, I love this country, and I would come back here all the time. And I like trying to capture that, the memories I had growing up as a kid here in Panama.
This might be like too not too personal per se, but maybe just too hard because of the amount that you've painted. But do you have a favorite painting of yours that you feel like has captured the spirit of Panama? If you had to name one, do you have that one? Is it on your website that we can maybe take a look at? Or
you know what? It's right here on this page. I've always really liked it. It's the third row down, second one in.
Right here?
It's two guys, yeah, that guy right there. Just really love the way this came out, the lighting of it, the feel of the afternoon, late afternoon. Clouds are really hard to paint. I sort of got it. Wasn't really I repainted those clouds numerous times before I finally got sort of the softness of the edges to them. You know, I tend to like, once I paint something like this, I move on and do something else. You know, I really I kind of get bored. And also, I paint 3 or 4 paintings at the same time. It's like working on numerous projects at once, because I'll get stuck on one and go, you know, I don't have the solution to it. It could be any project, really, even animation. I'll just say, you know what, stop. Move on to something else. Work on something else.
Sugar Chris has a bold question.
let me
Can you highlight it, please?
Yes. He says, just curious, George, does George do commissions? Those painting skills could probably make a sweet cover for a book. George, do you do commission?
But they're offering you business now, sir.
Yeah, I do commissions. I have to be honest with you, I'm not very cheap. I've spent a lot of time doing it. I have to get repaid for this 30 years of work, so just be upfront about it. But yes, I'm doing it on a couple of commissions actually in LA for a client for scenes of Disneyland. Fairly good size, 36 by 24, 48 by 24.
Wow, absolutely. Very nice. So we have another question for you here, George. What are the go-to or must tubes of paint that are the most important in your arsenal? So what kind of, this is probably a question you might get asked a lot. I know like YouTube artists get asked a lot, you know, what kind of brushes do you use? What paints do you use?
I use 2 types of paints. An acrylic paint called Golden Open, which is an acrylic that takes longer to set. And it's really it's a thick acrylic. And I actually have those with me here in Panama for painting on site. And then all this work is done with water mixable oil paints. And the brand is called Cobra by Royal Talents. An excellent paint. So I don't have to worry about turpentine, mineral spirits, chemicals in my house. And they work just like regular oil paints. So I recommend them. My palette, if you want a bit specific, is a warm and a cool of the primary colors, red, yellow, blue. So it's, if anybody wants to know, I'll list it. It's white. And then from light to dark, it's light cad, yellow, yellow ochre, which is cooler, red cad light, warm red, alizarin crimson, which is a cool red, relative to the red. Cerulean blue, ultramarine blue, and phthalo blue. I'll put phthalo blue down for like accents because it's very, very powerful. It'll dominate anything on the page. All the phthalos are really strong colors. And then burnt sienna, skin colors. A lot of paints. It's a great, very efficient color for getting skin tones down. And sometimes black, just to get a lot of grays quickly. And then I'll tint the grays. Anyway, that's my palette. That's my color palette.
Very nice.
If that helps somebody.
Yeah, I've listened to a good bit of Bob Ross episodes, and it sounds very similar to his palette. He uses a lot of CAD and Phalo stuff, so very nice.
Yeah,
Um,
thanks.
yeah,
And like I
okay,
say,
very
I
good.
replicate or I try and do all these in Procreate first.
Hmm.
So I've worked out all the color relationships and all the principal work. Frankly, all the hard work has been done. There's somebody who I mentor under. He does these paintings, huge teepees. He sells them. They're teepee paintings in the American West. He sells them for $100,000. He
Wow.
paints the entire painting in Photoshop first,
Mm.
and then he knows exactly what he's going to do on the finished canvas.
Dude, I love your shadow work. Like it looks alive, you know,
Yeah,
because I mean, it incorporates like the colors, and then you got like the contrast of the blue against the sand. It's just, dude, that's something that I haven't been able to replicate yet. But I have to say, I don't paint every day, so yeah, maybe I should start. But yeah, dude, this is just inspiring work, man. And yes, Sugar Chris, I am fanboying. If there's a moment to fanboy, it's now.
So, George, I did want to ask. I'm not sure if you mentioned it sort of slightly behind the scenes. Did you
Mhm.
were you working on an art book, like a how-to paint book, or is that just sort of a glimmer in your eye, or is it something we can maybe expect in a
yeah.
coming
I'm working
soon?
on that. I'm working on an art book, and it was based on a teacher I had at Disney who was really good. A
Hmm.
three-step process that you work in line first, and then you work in value. What are the lights and darks, and then you go to color, and you work in that order.
Very
And
nice.
if you're having, and this applies to comic books, it applies to anything. If you're having problems in color, it's generally not a color issue because that's pretty subjective. It's going to be a value. It's going to be a light dark issue or a
Mhm.
design issue. The design is really important. How you compose the elements in a frame. Same applies to filmmaking. It's the same principles, just composition. Where are you putting the figures in the frame? 185, 225, scope. It's the same principles I apply when I was shooting and designing Oliver and Company. You do it to a painting. Where do you want the eye to go? Where do you want the viewer's eye to go? You've got to lead the viewer's eye, no matter what you're doing. And I find a lot of paintings, and I find a lot of artwork is very cluttered and very unclear. For me, personally, I'm speaking for myself. You have to, you're the director. You're saying, this was important to me. I want you to look here. Every painting you see here, 50% of the detail in the photograph has been removed.
Mhm.
It's not important. It's not what I'm trying to express. And it's just going to distract you. So you have to
Exactly.
know. You have to know ahead of time. You have to make all
Yeah. For
these.
example, James, can you go back to uh, the last picture? Yeah.
This
Like,
one.
for example, here, like watching just the pose of the writer, like you can basically like start like inquiring on what he's thinking just because of the position of the shoulders, how he's grabbing the reins. Like I don't know,
Right.
like that's the thing. Like you leave it at 50%, so the people who's viewing the picture or watching the movie finishes the idea, and that to me it's one of the secrets of great art. You want people to get engaged
That's
with the
correct.
art.
Absolutely right. You're absolutely right. You want to
Mm-hmm.
suggest something
Mm-hmm.
and let
Yeah.
the viewer finish either the drawing, the painting, the movie. You don't need to be literal about it. We're all pretty bright people. We all get it. You can
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
suggest, most people understand it. And it
Yeah.
also engages your viewer. You could be making a film. The same principles apply. It's like writing
Mm-hmm.
too much text in a film.
Yes.
There's way too much dialogue in film. You don't need it.
Mm.
The best
Mhm.
films are, I watched Heat again,
Yeah.
1992, old movie. There are scenes with no dialogue.
No
You
doubt, no
know
need it.
what's going on, and you get engaged. Es lo mismo. It's the same with a painting.
Hmm.
It's a conversation with the viewer. Let them finish the painting for you. I had great teachers who stressed that,
Yeah.
and I'd say the same thing applies to all the arts.
Yeah, dude, this is awesome, George. And dude, I'm gonna keep in contact with you because I'm gonna convince you to crowdfund the book, man. Like I'm gonna do the work. I'm gonna do the. This is my
Right.
my pledge for this year. I'm gonna get. George to crowdfund a book, because dude, like this is just amazing work that needs to get out there. And
Thanks, man. Thanks.
like
Appreciate it.
I'll show you what's been done with crowdfunding lately to see my point and why I'm so excited about this. But
Yeah, I
but
never
yeah,
thought.
man, like
Yeah, I never thought of it, to be honest. Just, yeah.
mhm, mhm. This is something that's gonna be amazing, man.
No, thanks,
Yeah,
man. Thanks.
yeah,
Thanks.
Okay, so we are coming up on an hour here. We want to
yeah,
be
exactly.
respectful of George's time. We absolutely appreciate you joining us this morning, George. And I know the chat had a great time. So
Yeah, there were
thank you
great
so much, man.
questions. My thanks to Jake. He had great questions. My thanks to both of you. It was really a lot of fun. I always like
Mhm.
talking about the arts. I think that the same principles apply no matter what you're doing. You're doing films, you're doing comic books. It's all about what's kind of story you're trying to tell, and say it clearly. Focus it.
Yeah.
You have to know in your own head exactly what it is you want to convey. So my thanks, man. You guys, it was awesome being on. So
It was a
amen.
pleasure, man.
Okay. Well, absolutely.
Jake,
And
you're welcome, Jake. So thank you.
there we go. Yes, Jake. Jake was the friend of mine who was very excited to have you on the show. As soon as we posted it, he messaged me. So,
Cool,
yep.
cool. Well,
Mhm.
Jake, many thanks. They were great questions. Thank you.
Alrighty. So, George, it was a pleasure having you. We're going to go ahead and end the show now. And I'm going to bump you to the back real quick.
But don't leave. Don't
Nope.
leave yet. Yeah, it's all right.
And okay, everybody. So that was another episode of the Ginge and Pedro show. Boom.
Yeah.
Great show.
You saw
Had a
me
lot of fun.
fanboying hard.
I did. I've never seen that
Yes.
side of Pedro before.
Yeah, I know. I know. It was bound to happen at some point.
So,
So yeah, man. Thanks everybody who saw the show. Please share it on Twitter so more people can have access to what happened today. As I said, like this is a guy who is a wellspring of knowledge, and I consider him a friend. So yeah, go us.
all right. We're going to go ahead and end the show. Pedro's rambling again.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. We'll catch you next